Order. I call the Honourable Tau Henare. Tēnā koe, Mr Henare.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Kai a koe e hoa e meka. Noi atu te mihi ki a koe, mō tō haerenga mai, I rota i te whare o te raiona. Nō reira, nau mai, haere mai, ngā mihi ki a koe. Mr Speaker, I want to first talk about the farmer hater that I heard in the House this morning, David Cunliffe, that man that so wants to be the leader of the Labour Party. You know, he railed against the rich in his speech, Mr Speaker. He railed against the rich and told us how he loves the poor, but he doesn't want to live there in New Lynn. But he doesn't want to live with the poor people in New Lynn. He would rather live in Westmere. Mr Chair, Mr Speaker. Oh, sorry, it's Herne Bay, Mr Speaker. I love it when we hear the Labour Party get on their hind legs and they yell out, "We are against mining. We don't want to see any oil exploration or any mining in our electorates." And you know what? The same day they go to the airport and wave goodbye to their sons and daughters, nieces and nephews to go to Australia so that they can go and get mining jobs. For goodness sake. And they think that that's the way to prosperity. If you listen to the speeches that we've heard this morning, and it's undoubted that we don't listen to them, well, many people anyway, but if you were to listen to them, Mr Speaker, this country is in dire straits. This country is falling over. But so why do we have 3% growth? Why are we projected to have growth in the next few years of 2 to 3%? If that was the case, if our country was a basket case, we would be going backwards economically. And all they can do is say to foreign investors, and mark my words, Mr Speaker, it's not the investment of myself and my mates in New Zealand, it's actually the foreign investment. All my rich mates out in Te Aratu North, Mr Speaker, it's the foreign investors, it's the investment money that comes from overseas that makes us the country that we are. Mr Speaker, their big policy announcement, and I know it resounds well with the sort of general public, and that goes for any country, and that is to say that the housing problem is all foreigners. It's due to foreign investment. It's due to the foreigner buying a house for an investment in New Zealand. Mr Speaker, I've not heard once any Labour MP talk about greenfields and brownfields. I've not heard one Labour MP talk about freeing up land so that we can build houses, so people can have what you and I have, which is the opportunity to purchase your first home. Once you've got your first home, the world's your oyster, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, they talk about Sky City. Well, listen, we in Auckland and New Zealand get a free, listen up, a free convention centre. It is a world-class convention centre with thousands of jobs, not only in the building of that place, but also in the running of that place. And the downstream jobs that come out of that are enormous, Mr Speaker. For what? For a couple of hundred extra pokey machines. And I tell you what, and when the pokey machine number is all tallied up, it's still less than 10 or so years ago. So what's the big deal? The GCSB, I see in the paper for the last week, Mr Speaker, there's been from the United States of America some warnings over some terrorist attacks that might happen. I wonder where and I wonder how they got that information. They didn't just think about it. They've got an intelligence gathering machine, and that's how you protect your nation. And the hysteria that is being thrown around by the Labor government, the Labor Party and the Green Party, Mr. Speaker, about mass surveillance. Well, it's not going to happen, and here's the reason why. No agency has the capability of mass surveillance. Not one of the organisations in New Zealand has that capability, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about national standards just for a moment. When national standards that were proposed by the Honourable Hekia Parata, everybody fell off their horses and they said basically that the sun wasn't going to come up in the morning and the sky was going to fall in. Well, lo and behold, because of national standards, people are succeeding. People are succeeding. Have a look in the Don Post yesterday. Front page. Oh, got nothing to do with standards. Got nothing to do with national standards. Chris Farfoy from Mana, who doesn't really know where the McDonald's is. Mr. Speaker, I've got to tell him this. Mr. Speaker, oh yes, I know where every McDonald's is, Mr. Speaker. And I tell you what, I even know where the 24-hour ones are. Mr. Speaker, it's like this. If you set standards and you keep standards up, then our kids will succeed. There are more people now in training for proper jobs, quality jobs, than ever before. Gone are the days where you could just go off on your own and get the government to pay for a basket weaving course that was never going to get you anything. Or a hair braiding exercise down at the local polytech. No, sir, that's not a good spend. That's not a good spend of taxpayers' money. Oh, here he is. Here he is. He's the working class hero, Andrew Little, just waiting in the wings to be able to get that top job. Because he's always coveted that top job. He was like that in the Engineers Union. But he wanted to move up, so he joined the Labor Party. And now he's after David's job. Now he's after David's job, but I'm not sure which David. 3, mate. 3. And proud of it. Something that you couldn't do, Mr. Speaker. No. Well, not you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I tell you what, we also heard the figure this morning about power price rises. Under a Labor government, 72% increase in power prices. And under this government, we've only been in 1.5 terms, Mr. Speaker, only gone up 16%. 16%, Mr. Speaker. So if they want to quibble about and argue about what's been going on, Mr. Speaker, you hear from David Cunliffe, that man that lives in Herne Bay and represents the poor people of another electorate. He just loves it, doesn't he, Mr. Speaker? What was that, David? No, sorry, you can't speak. He talked about the razor wire and the secured, gated communities, Mr. Speaker. It's like something... and he knows this from sitting on his deck in Herne Bay. Mr. Speaker, I've heard that, you're not supposed to go down that road and people are representing their electorates. But the thing is that when you rail against the rich and you rail against the people on the Forbes rich list, and then you have the gumption to get up and saying, I support the poor. All our policies are about poor people. And then you don't want to even live in that electorate. You don't want to even live with the people that you supposedly represent, Mr. Speaker. And I know what they're going to say. I know what they'll have a go at the Prime Minister. But let me just finish on this note, Mr. Speaker. Let me just finish on this note. When you wave goodbye to your sons and daughters and your nieces and nephews, but you won't allow them to get a job in that industry in your own country, that word starts with an H, and I'll let you work out what that word is.
I call the honourable member Gareth Hughes.